Welcome in, 365 Sports, or should I say welcome back? Welcome in would be when we were first starting, but Josh Neighbors is here with us, and do we have a new name for the?
We do.
What's the name of the Josh Neighbors podcast project? What is it?
College Countdown.
College Countdown.
College Countdown with Josh Neighbors was what it's going to be called. We're working on the logo now.
Yeah.
Everything. We hope to be up by next week.
Okay, so College Countdown with Josh Neighbors hopefully next week. These things do take time, though. They do take time. There's some logistics. Like, if you want to do it right, you can't just you could just put up a microphone and a camera and yell into the void, but that's not really what we do.
We spent days debating the color of the logo.
Yeah.
And should we put a football in one place, basketball in the other? Just how it's all going to, it's important. The branding side of it's really, really important. So we're getting there, though. We're getting there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the calendar shoot has to take place before, anything else, so you can start selling those things in advance and holidays. So I know that's been a burden on you. So
the swimsuit issue. Yeah.
Yeah. You've got to pick, am I a fireman in April or am I a cop? What is that? Am I in a field of dandelions or am I running by a brook? I don't know. So those are the things you have to deal with in the fast-paced world of college football podcasting. But we had the rankings come out this week, the seedings, I guess, so to speak, of this first one. Now, we try not to get too worked up over them, but sometimes you just see things like Alabama at 11, Penn State at 6, and you're like, what's going on? Why? Can you just make a statement about them early so that we don't have to do this later? That's what confuses me.
Yeah. So you said you want the rankings to come out earlier?
No, I want them to not come out earlier. I want the committee to make a statement about, hey, Penn State, you lost your only good game this year. Mm-hmm. You only have one loss, but we're going to punish you for that.
Right.
As opposed to Iowa State, okay, you just lost a game to, a team that's good, but not great in Texas Tech. But by 1 point, everybody else has a loss. For the most part, we're gonna kind of keep you at status quo. But Penn State's they do not apply the history of each of teams fairly across conferences. Penn State gets more extra credit for Joe Paterno still than Iowa State does just for being good this year.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I heard somebody mention this yesterday. I think it was Tom Fornelli say Indiana and Michigan have pretty similar strength of schedules at this point of the season. Than Michigan did last year, and not as much credit, right? And to see them behind, Tennessee's played a really challenging schedule. I don't want to take too much away from Tennessee because I think it's weird. I don't like watching Heupel teams. I've actually enjoyed watching them kind of squirm their way through it, if that makes sense. Just the absolute gut check last week at home against Kentucky. But Indiana's consistency in blowing teams out has been really good. They faced their first deficit last week and they responded by putting 40 points just consecutively on Michigan State. And in pretty short order. Betting this year has been really hard in college football. The easiest bet I have made all season, I live bet Indiana last week, and I checked the score maybe twice. Mm-hmm. And that's just kind of the team they've been this year, so I feel like they should be up there. Penn State, it's hard because the West Virginia result's pretty impressive. Because just you go on the road, took care of business with a lightning delay and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And I guess the way that they got USC's best shot, I really had to empty the clip there to beat USC, but how impressive is that? Mm-hmm. So it's all of that kind of mental math, because really, Paul, what I think this year is there are not, it's week number 11 and we've got one undefeated team, 2 1-loss teams, an undefeated team. And I don't think anybody's going to argue Miami should be ahead of Ohio State and Georgia. Mm-hmm. Just based, they should have a loss against Virginia Tech. And then you got one loss team, undefeated. It's just this year, it's a whole lot more of, this team beat this team, this team beat this team. And then kind of in the rest of it, you almost want a team like BYU that's just beating a lot of decent teams. That's kind of, all right, I know they're good. I've tried to doubt them as much as possible. BYU has just been beaten team after beaten team after beaten team. And they've got a couple nice wins, like you hammer K-State. Okay, top 25 win, data point I can point to. You hammer SMU, you beat SMU on the road. Okay, it's another data point I can point to. So they've got 2 data points and a clean record the rest of the way. So I do actually think BYU should be higher. And this is coming from somebody who's not I don't think BYU, like, I don't think they're one of the best 10 teams, but like, I do believe in the resume idea. So I think BYU should be higher than they are.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. Do you see anybody who is outside looking in that you think is getting jobbed right now?
I don't know if anybody can make the case they're getting jobbed. I would say SMU has a strong case to be in because they just beat Pitt pretty handily. I know the rest of their schedule is not like super, super good, but they do have a win at Louisville. They had the run of 3 straight. They had the 3 straight road games where they had Louisville, Stanford, and Duke. And I mean, they won all 3 of those. Like, that's not, I know Stanford and Duke aren't really that good. Duke's not bad, but man, to go on the road and beat a couple of those teams, really, really good. And the Pitt win was pretty resounding. So I think SMU's got a case, but you're kind of asking yourself at that point, okay, who are you taking out? I know Bama's probably right in the crosshairs. My alma mater, the Missouri Tigers, are a big factor, I think, in why Alabama's still up there. Missouri being ranked to me is a little bit of a joke. Don't think the Tigers deserve that ranking, but they are ranked. And so I think a big part of them, Alabama being up as high as they are is the ranking. But it's, they've had a Tennessee loss, and also the Georgia loss is more than just a loss. It's the fact they were so terrible in that first half. And it took them getting kicked in the teeth repeatedly to find that next gear, and they still lose the game in the end anyway. So, you beat cookless Missouri, great, good on you. But what else across the resume for Alabama is really speaking to you right now about what they've accomplished? Maybe Wisconsin win, I guess, maybe, right? But you lost to Vandy, you lost to, let's see. Oh, they beat Georgia. Since they lost the game, but like they beat Georgia, right? But yeah, like the Wisconsin game, man, like just, is that a huge win for you? No, the Vanderbilt loss, Tennessee loss really do hurt you.
Yeah, they really do. So, this week does not here's the thing. And I love this about college football now in 2024 and moving forward. Every week where you're like, there's only 4 good games. No, there's 15 good games.
And by the way, I flipped the Georgia-Alabama result. Alabama was kicking them in the teeth, let Georgia back in the game. Yeah, the Vanderbilt loss one stings. Not that bad, though.
Yeah, absolutely. But you look at the schedule this week, and there's not a lot of stuff, but every week there's one that kind of pops out of nowhere and is good. I wonder that about Miami and Georgia Tech this week. I do. Miami's been playing a little fast and loose. Georgia Tech is pretty well coached. They're talent deficient, I think, depth-wise across the way, but they don't beat themselves when they're playing well. And I wonder if we see the ghost of last year creep back into that coaching staff a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting because every Miami game for the most part has been such a fun frenzy because of how bad their defense has been. I mean, that stretch where the Tech game, the Cal game, the Louisville game were awesome. Things did settle down for them against Florida State, but I mean, it was fast and loose for a minute. I know the offense came alive late against Duke, but it was a little bit hectic there. I just don't know I think Georgia Tech at this point of the season, I just don't know if they have the horses. They can't come out and shock a Florida State week 1, and it's not so surprising to beat Florida State now. So, it's Miami is kind of in this mode now of almost, I would say 2022 TCU, where they're, whatever year that was, where they're just beating everybody. And you're like, what's going on here? But it's just find a way. But actually every game for them is essentially identical. Mm-hmm. Right. They're all shootouts, and eventually one of those kind of turns on you. But Cam Ward's been so good, it just hasn't been the case. And the defenses in the ACC have not been good enough to put their foot down on them. They just don't have the personnel. So I think Miami's got a really good chance at running this thing and going undefeated. And I'm actually not too concerned for them this week, even though they're only 11-point favorite.
Yeah. All right. Georgia and Ole Miss is the game of the week, but Ole Miss has a 26-player injured list, which includes Trey Harris. It also includes 2 of their running backs of the 3 that are all pretty good. Ulysses Bentley, the only healthy, starter back that they have. So what do we expect from this game? It feels like one that Ole Miss, if they were at full strength, I think could finally get. Lane Kiffin could get that big win because Carson Beck's been playing so poorly. But without Trey Harris, I just wonder if they can match up.
Yeah, so this game's super interesting because from the storyline standpoint, you've got Lane Kiffin, who has never won the big game. And he is going up against, Kirby Smart, who now has won plenty of big games. But and I watched Ole Miss last week as they played Arkansas. I mean, the extreme makeover home edition that the Ole Miss defense has gone through has been absolutely unbelievable because while their offense has been up and down, their defense has been fantastic. And that's just because when you get the guy, like the kid from Florida, I always forgot to say his name, plus Pegas.
Uman Milan.
Yes. You get him plus Pegas. And then plus also, you bring in Walter Nolan. They've just got a physicality up front that allows them to be a bit different. In the back end, they're pretty good too. Their coverage has been good. And then, Chris Poop Hall from Arkansas has been a huge addition for them at linebacker. He's just been a vacuum for them. And so they've fixed so much on their defense. And I'm wondering this week if they can generate some pressure and make life bad for Carson Beck because there have been some really terrible stretches of play for Carson Beck this year. Now, what's been funny is the 2-3 pick games he's had, they've won them both. And they actually won them both by 2 scores, right? Things got dicey late for them against Texas, but they ended up having that put their foot down drive. And then obviously Florida has the quarterback injury. So the confidence of Carson Beck is something that has to be watched because of how poorly he's played in these 2 significant contests that they've been in. One was away. Actually, both were away from home. One was at Texas, one neutral site against Florida. So that's the number one thing I think we have to look at. Obviously, Ole Miss has to win this game to get in. But for Georgia as a national title contender, the thumbs up is you pushed Texas around when you had to. The thumbs down is how many Carson Beck 3-pick games can you survive against good competition before it comes back to bite you?
Yeah.
Because this is not is that an aberration thing? He's done it now twice. Mm-hmm. So, and this is definitely a type of defense that can make it happen a third time. So you need to be quick, you need to be clean, you need to be efficient against Ole Miss because, they could block them up and hold them off, sure, but I have to think at some point in the game, Ole Miss does generate some pressure.
Last game we'll talk about, and then we have to talk about Billy Napier. Tech and Colorado. Look, Colorado's just gotten better. Tech still has their up and down roller coaster nature, but that win against Iowa State was the prescription they needed filled for sure. What do you think about this one? Big noon kickoff on Saturday.
Yeah, man. Let's have some fun.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just have some fun because I think Tech that was win number 6 for them. So they're in a bowl now. Texas Tech is good to go. They're ready to rock. They're going to a bowl game. I think that was win number 6. Yeah, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Joey McGuire, I mentioned this to you last week. Okay, you're making bowl games in 3 straight. Once again, Mike Leach, he's first coach to go to back-to-back bowl games since Mike Leach. Yes, great. But let's see how many we can run this thing up to. You're at 9 games right now. Oklahoma State is on the road after this one, and West Virginia. You've got a good chance to win all 3 of your games here. The problem for them is, it's just I want more than just to be in this thing late. Can you have some moments? And they did the last game, and the last game is about as perfect as you. I'm not going to nitpick last game. Mm-hmm. It's just can we not bang it out all the time? Right. And this is one of those against Colorado where you kind of think you have to. Maybe Oklahoma State's probably the next one. But yeah, for Texas Tech, I would say the big key is, can you dictate some pace in this game? For them, running the football is a huge part of their offense. They're not a Briles style veer and shoot, but Zach Kitley did find the running game last year, And now it's just been such a massive part. Taj Brooks is by far the most important player on that team because he helps them not have their defense constantly on the football field. And even if he's playing well, if their defense is on the field all the time, they still lose some of the games. So, to me, it's like, can the defense be situationally good enough? Can you put some pressure on Shedeur? Because once again, he is not fleet of foot. He has been, but you have to get to him early. You have to get hands up at the defensive line because I was wrong about him coming into the season. He looks like the number one pick. Now, part of that's because Beck and Ewers have not been lights out. He's been absolutely lights out. Considering the personnel on that team, I know he's got good receivers, but he has been lights out considering the situations that they put him in. He looks like, to me, like the number one pick in a weak quarterback class, albeit, but his decision-making, his precision, all of it has really improved. So you got to get some pressure because, look, you don't have the better quarterback. You do have the better 1-2 punch, I think, in the backfield overall. Like, and this is not counting Travis Hunter because he obviously is a wide receiver. Mm-hmm. So, but dictating pace will be key here at home because Colorado is really good. And a huge part of why Colorado is good is because they've got the best player in college football on their team. And also they might, I mean, if you want to go out and say he's best quarterback in college football, I actually don't know if I'm going to fight you, which is crazy because
I said that earlier in the year on the show and everybody in the room fought me. And I was like, all right. And then after that Baylor game, a lot of people in my circle started coming around. They're like, that dude can ball.
I just had hesitation from guy. Like, he's got the ability, just like, and I've always said he's more Jared Goff than he is Matt Stafford. Like, I'm talking about like old Matt Stafford, like Calvin Johnson's down there somewhere. Chuck at Matt Stafford. Yeah. He can throw the deep ball, but his best ability is his precision. I do think he's a precision passer. And I've been totally wrong about going veer and shoot. I mean, they still run a bit of that, but like he's adapted very, very well. And he is understanding how to give himself time and let targets develop. And he's been really accurate this year.
All right, just a couple minutes here, Josh, but Billy Napier is coming back. He's had 2 consecutive losing seasons, likely to have 3 because they're unlikely to win the next 3 games that are Texas, LSU, and Ole Miss. But he's coming back in 2025.
Yeah. I mean, I know you're thrilled, right? I know you're excited to see Billy Napier back on the other sideline. I'm not totally surprised. I think if you look at the coaching market, this question is like the one I always ask, and for Florida, it's a decent question to ask. I think there's some good candidates out there, but like, all right, Florida, who are you going to get?
Yeah,
because, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's the biggest question. Like, who's out there for you to go get right now?
I think they can make a run at Lane, but here's the thing. The reason why Ole Miss is spending so much money is because they understand to keep Lane Kiffin happy, you have to say, hey, look, we're going to give you when you keep winning 10 games here, when Florida comes knocking, if they beat us out because they're Florida, that's why. It's not because we didn't give you money for players, because guess what? They took one of Florida's best players last year. They took one of A&M's best players last year. So Ole Miss, to their credit, has said, whatever the draw is in terms of finances, we're not going to get canceled out by A&M. We're not going to get canceled out by Florida. It's going to have to be that Gator logo that takes you away. To me, Rhett Lashley is probably in a great position. I think Rhett Lashley is probably that hottest name for a lot of jobs, but guess what? SMU is so committed to the ACC that they're not taking television money for 7 years. I want to guess that there's some quarters in the piggy bank. There is some money in the banana stand for Rhett Lashley's contract extension because he is going to get a fat one. Mm-hmm. And they are, they've got better athletes than most ACC teams. We had Mark Mann on a radio show. He goes, they out athleted Pitt. Mm-hmm. That's because they're spending the money. So they've got the cash to keep him away. It's going to be a logo, I think, type situation there at SMU as well that would keep, or take him away. And I don't think Kurt Signetti is going to leave Indiana. No, I really don't. Like, I think that's kind of the perfect place for him. Mm-hmm. So you look around, like, who else is out there? Who is out there that you want to make a play for, you make a push for if you are Florida? I mean, John Gruden, like you have to go to the other area, John Gruden, Urban Meyer. You know, that's kind of the area you have to head to. And I'm not a huge fan of that area. I just think it's a message board. Like I think Gruden can coach still, but I just don't like, does he have any interest in recruiting? It's whenever somebody brings up Petrino, head coach, Arkansas. Yeah, the guy's 63, gets to call offense. You think he wants to go to recruiting? Chip Kelly left UCLA job to do what? Just call offense.
Yeah.
It's because he doesn't want to recruit.
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
Like think about the old folks, guys. The old folks, they don't want to keep recruiting in this era. They just don't. Saban retired.
Yep, absolutely. Josh Neighbors, the college countdown.
It's coming.
It's coming soon. Look it up. We'll keep you. He'll be on next week, so we'll be able to know if it's next week or not. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it. Talk to you next week. This is 365 Sports. The top 5 is next.